to order for the Township of Puslinch on June 3rd, 2020. And I'll start with roll call. So I believe we're going to go with Councillor Bailey first.
Present.
Councillor Balmer.
Present.
Councillor Goyda.
Present.
Councillor Sapoulos.
Present.
Thank you. And disclosure of pecuniary interests. And see none. Oh, sorry, I heard somebody say something. Okay, so now we have a resolution for the adoption and the receipt of minutes. Could Ms. White Fox please read that resolution?
The minutes of the following meeting be adopted as written and distributed. May 20th, 2020, electronic participation council meeting.
Okay, can I get a mover for that, please?
I'll move.
Councillor Sapoulos, seconder. Councillor Balmer?
Yes.
All right, okay, all in favor. Councillor, any questions or comments on those minutes? No. Okay, all in favor. Councillor Bailey?
In favor?
Councillor Balmer?
In favor.
Councillor Goyda?
In favor.
Councillor Sapoulos?
In favor.
All right, it's carried. Any business arising out of the minutes? Sorry, Matthew, you'll just have to chime in if you have something to say because you don't have your video on, and I'm okay with that. So on to communications. So first communications. Oh, no public meetings. Open up. So we have the monthly monitoring report from Dufferin. Any questions or comments on that one? No, see none. Okay. And then
I
we
do.
have the.
I do. Excuse me, I do.
Yep, Councillor Sapoulos.
Yes, yeah, I understand from staff that they contacted the operator of Mill Creek and they're going to get information. The operator said in their letter that there's an anomaly at a couple of monitoring points and they're going to send it to the province, the revised version. Then our staff indicated that we'll all receive this as well.
Okay, I think I got most. You just were garbled a little bit at the end there, Councillor Sapoulos. But the synopsis is that you've contacted staff. We've had discussions about this and contacted the company, and they're going to, if they're going to submit new reporting, they're going to submit it to the township as well.
Correct.
Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments on that one? Do you have anything, Councillor Balmer? No.
No,
Okay,
all
we'll
good
move
here.
Okay. Move on to the next one, which is County of Wellington Committee Resolution, Provincial Policy. Any questions or comments on that one? No? Okay. And the water monitoring report from the McMillan pit. Any questions or comments on that one? No? Okay. We don't. And then we go into IG. I think we only have one. We have the Mapleton resolution for the request of the province to review how farmland is taxed. And I believe we have a resolution for that, Ms. White Fox.
Yes, that the Intergovernmental Affairs Correspondence item listed on the council agenda for June 3rd, 2020 council meeting be received. And whereas the Township of Puslinch received correspondence from the Township of Mapleton with respect to requesting the province of Ontario to review the farm property class tax rate program in light of the economic competitiveness concerns between rural and urban municipalities, be it resolved that the Township of Puslinch hereby supports the resolution 2020-04-14 passed on March 10th, 2020, and be it further resolved that this motion be sent to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Honourable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Honourable Rod Phillips, Minister of Finance, Honourable Ernie Hardman, Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, MPP Randy Pedipis, Honourable Ted Arnott, and all Ontario municipalities, Rural Ontario Municipal Association, ROMA, and Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO.
Thank you. I'm glad you're reading these resolutions. So I'm assuming Councillor Sapoulos, you're the mover on that one?
Yes.
And can I get a seconder for that, please? Okay, Councillor Goyda. Okay, so up for discussion. If anybody has any comments, Councillor, I'll just go the normal order, Councillor Bulmer. So Councillor Bailey, do you have any comments and questions on that one?
No, I don't have any questions. I just definitely I support the resolution that we're proposing.
Okay, and I can come back to you on that one as well. So Councillor Bulmer.
Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this again. This has been a challenge for rural municipalities for a long time since it was changed. I'm not sure this is going to get, it's not going to be adopted by the province because, you know, it means uploading the administration of them, but I do think there needs to be a change. I did have an email exchange back and forth with Mr. DeHart from the county, because I do have some concerns about some of the points that he made in his report in support of this, because they seem to leave some misperceptions out there. And so if we look at if I could speak to those for a moment.
So Councillor Bulmer, can I just interject for one moment? Can I ask you just to shut your video off while you're saying your points? It seemed like you were just kind of bordering on being garbled. So if you're going to get into some depth conversation, I just hope that'll facilitate hearing it better. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, just a couple of points. And it isn't that there's any significant errors in the report, but it creates some misperceptions that I think the farm community struggles from as they try to, I mean, the OFA tried to make their point of the county and the Christian farmers tried to make their point. But there's 4 points in the report that I think I'd like to clarify for council's knowledge on this issue. They talk about a farmer signing a tax form for a non-farm landowner. And in the report, it suggests that then they would get the farm tax credit on all of their property. Well, that's not the case. They would only get the farm tax credit on the land that is being farmed. The house would still be taxed as a non-farmer residence at the residential tax rate, so they wouldn't get the entire discount on all the property. The other piece, they talked about what else? They talk about the managed forest tax credit and the conservation land tax incentive program. And it doesn't explicitly say, but it talks about it in context of farmers. This is another program that is available to all landowners in the township. So anybody can take advantage of that program. But I realized that in the context of this report, it was to indicate that when the OFA and the Christian farmers were asking for even a further reduction in the tax rate for farmland, that this was something else they could use to lower their burden. The other piece that they talk about was that farmers are in an unusual position where they're able to write off their taxes as a business expense. But this too, as I discussed with Ken DeHart, the treasurer from the county, is that this option is available for any landowner who has a business, even a residential landowner who has a home business or home occupation. The biggest difference is that if you have a home occupation, you can write off portions of all of your property taxes, whereas a farmer can only write off the portion associated with their farming business. So they can't write down the portion that's associated with a managed forest tax credit or something. It's not all the taxes a farmer can write off against business expenses, only the farm portion and not the residential portion. But it suggests that they can write off all of it. I think the most concerning one is the one that talks about the percentage of property tax as a percentage of income. My concern here is, and I confirmed with Mr. DeHart, is he's using gross to gross in this, where they talk about $804 million of farm gate sales for a farm. Well, that's before a farmer has to pay all of his staff, all of his inputs, fertilizer, seed, whatever it is, and he's comparing it to the pre-tax take-home pay of the average homeowner. If you take the numbers of farms that they're showing in the report and divide the $804 million by the number of farms in the county, that comes out to $175,000 a year average income for a farmer. I can tell you, if the farmers on average were making $175,000, if I were making $175,000, I'm not sure I would have time for this job or need. The farmers wouldn't be working off the farms if they were making $175,000 a year. So I was a little concerned that's out there as if this is an apples to apples comparison. I've talked to a few farmers since I read this report, and it's more along the lines of a restaurant you're looking at 5% margins on a big farm. So saying that if I could get away with paying 1.5% of my farm income in taxes, I'd be thrilled. My taxes would go down enormously. So I'm concerned some of these perceptions are out there, and I just want to make sure council is aware of these. I know the treasurer knows what he's saying, but sometimes how it's written and how it might be perceived is different from the actual reality. So, otherwise, I do support the resolution. Something has to be done, and I would like to talk with staff and council at a later date about an alternative solution to this that might address the concerns of the WFA, the OFA, and municipalities. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Matthew. Really appreciate that. That was great information. Councillor Goyda.
Councillor Balmer, you're just so informative about this farm tax item, but I'm just wondering if you have do you think that we need to be changing this resolution in any way to address those particular points, or is the resolution okay as it is? And those specific items in the report are just more for information.
Well, thank you, Councillor Goyda. If I could, Mr. Chair, I think where I've seen the problem is if this were managed, God forbid, I'm going to say it more like the aggregate levy payment, that what the municipalities received to make up for the farm tax credit, and it was identified for that purpose, I think would go a long way to addressing the issues that everybody's worried about. It's been a long time trying to figure out, well, how far behind are we on it? How much is it costing our other residents? But if we had that payment that came from the province identified, this is what it is, this is the amount, and then we could compare it to what we're actually subsidizing the farm production, we'd have a quick check every year, and we'd also recognize that this is a benefit we're getting from having the farms here. I can remember when this program changed, it was a tough thing for me as a farmer, going from all of a sudden I felt like I was a valued part of this community because, you know, farms paid a lot in property taxes, to all of a sudden being seen as a liability because of this perception we were only paying 25%. And if it was changed and that the check came from the province, identified specifically that's what it was for, it'd be easier for municipalities to say we were getting the right share, and it'd be easy to point to that we're getting this because of the farmland and it has a value to this municipality.
Anything further, Councillor Goyda?
I'm just, should any of that be rolled into this resolution, or is that a whole separate, like a whole separate project in itself?
Well, Councillor Balmer mentioned he wants to talk with council at a later date and bring back some ideas.
Okay.
Councillor Balmer, are you comfortable leaving the resolution as stated, and we'll wait for your report at a later time?
Yes, absolutely. I support the motive. I support what's trying to be achieved here. It's the same thing that the WFA and the OFA, it's the same thing everybody's trying to achieve, is rebalancing this, getting it right so that rural residents, my neighbors, aren't subsidizing my living, that other farmers are not being subsidized by their neighbors, that the urban residents, you see that in the letter from the WFA, and from the county, the idea is we want to make sure that everybody participates in this provincial program. And I'd say the same thing would be helpful for the managed forest tax credit or the conservation land tax credit program, so that we know the benefits that others are contributing to when our municipality subsidizes those programs.
Thank you. Councillor Spoulos?
Yes. The way I look at it, every property owner is paying in the order of $800,000 to fact that the province is not being equitable in the refund that we are due. And that's a big chunk of change. It amounts to $2.6 million on an annual basis. That's a lot of money that is going to something that basically the province's coffers. It's not coming back to us. It's money we're losing. We're paying extra tax. And we can always use that money for some other more other valuable projects in the township. That's all I got.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I was just waiting for your video to get back on. I'm supportive of the resolution. This, essentially what this is saying is the local municipality is subsidizing food production for the entirety of the province. So what we're asking is for the province, if they identify that food production needs a tax reduction, that everyone in Ontario provides that tax reduction, regardless of where the host municipality has the farm. So Puslinch, Mapleton, they're struggling because the farms are only paying 25%. And I'm supportive of farmers paying less tax for food production if all or every Ontarian contributes to supporting that initiative. It's exactly the same as the aggregate industry. The province has essentially identified that the aggregate industry needs to be subsidized with low assessments of the land to support that industry. And we're fighting them on that. And we're saying to the province that if you want to subsidize the aggregate industry, then the province should do that. They should pay their fair share of tax to the municipalities, and then the province can kick back that money. And it's no different than the food industry. So if the program were to be revamped, I would be supportive of lower taxes on farms. I don't feel as a residential member of this community that I have harsh feelings towards my neighbor farms that pay 25%. Councillor Bulmer, I don't feel that whatsoever, but I do believe the urban residents of Ontario, Toronto, those major centers, they should be subsidizing the food production throughout Ontario. That's where the burden of cost should be borne, is with everyone, not just the host. So this is a first step in that direction. And I look forward to the conversations with the province and the ministries to see if this gets any traction. It's a major issue for the northern part of the county. And once this aggregate assessment review is completed, I believe this will be the next item that we try to address with this provincial government. So those are my comments. Councillor Bailey or anybody else, do you have any? Councillor Bailey, go ahead.
Yeah, I like how you just put that into words. That was a lot of what I was thinking. I was trying to figure out how to say it. I do have a question though. You're suggesting.
Let's get a little closer to your mic.
Oh, sorry. A lot of your comments were about food production. So are we distinguishing farms for food producing farms versus other types of farming? And where does that line drawn?
I'm not an expert. Maybe that was a misstep. I mean, farms grow hay to feed animals that go into the food stream. They, all agriculture, in my opinion. Maybe
That
Councillor
decision's
Bulmer
made
would
at,
have at a much higher level, but we don't disagree.
yeah, that's a provincial policy
Yeah,
decision.
yeah. So, okay, any further questions on that? No? Okay, so I'll say all in favor for that. So we'll start with Councillor Bailey.
Yep, I'm in favor.
Okay, Councillor Bulmer.
In favor.
Okay, Councillor Goyda,
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos,
In favor?
and I'm in favor as well. That's carried. All right, no delegations. Reports. So first one, we have our Director of Finance on the line for the financial 2020, 21, 2019 Township General Surplus. We have a resolution. Can Ms. Whitefox read that resolution, please?
That report, FIN 2020-021, regarding the 2019 Township General Surplus be received, and that the general surplus balance as of December 31st, 2019 of $542,282 be allocated to the Asset Management Discretionary Reserve in accordance with Council Resolution number 2019-347.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to wait for the mover and seconder on that one. So Councillor Bailey, do you have any questions for the director? No? Okay. Councillor Bulmer?
No.
No? Okay. Councillor Goyda?
One quick question for the director. in the chart that's in this report that shows the projected balances in the asset management discretionary reserve, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the 2020 balance included what was the estimated surplus of 418,615. But now that the actual is 542,282, there would be an extra approximately 123,000 added to that discretionary reserve balance for 2020. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, Councillor Goyda, you are understanding that correctly. At that time when that report was prepared, I just had an estimated surplus.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that difference would go into the asset management discretionary reserve should council direct that.
Okay, and then just one quick follow-up question to that. Would that extra 123,000 and change carry through? Like, would we see that carry through all of the years, or does it just show as in 2020?
There is a surplus estimate for all of the years, I believe. Yeah.
So what I would say, Councillor Goyda, is a component of our surplus is staffing. We were down staff, so maybe the director can chime in, but you know, maybe we're seeing a larger surplus because positions weren't filled, and I forget the terminology for when you don't fill a position right away, and then maybe that's a component as to why our surplus is higher, and then so potentially it could not be there next year, and it all depends, right? So
sorry, I guess what I'm getting at is we have now an extra $123,000 more than what we had budgeted, but we don't necessarily for all these years have additional expenses. So not to say that we would add an extra 123,000 every year, but I'm just wondering if that balance sort of would carry through all the years, because we have this extra money going in, but not necessarily extra money going out. I don't know if that's making sense, but.
So Councillor Goyda, I think, so as we work on our 2021 budget and forecast,
Yeah.
We'll look at some of the projects because we may need to add new projects. We may have to remove projects. So
Yeah.
I think it's, I think as we implement our asset management plan and our long-term forecasts in the citywide system, I'll have a better answer.
Okay.
But now that I also think about it again, I think there was only a surplus allocation for 2019, not for every year, because I'm not assuming that we're going to have a surplus every year. So,
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
No problem.
okay, Councillor Spillis.
Yes, a quick question for our Director of Finance. This system-wide software program you're talking about, when do you anticipate that it'll be coming online to help with manage some of the shortfalls we are identifying in 2022 to 2026?
So the goal is that the citywide system implementation is a priority work plan item for the finance department in 2020 and 2021. There is further deadlines associated with the asset management planning regulation. Sorry.
I think she was interrupted briefly. We'll give her a minute.
We are working closely with our municipal partners that are also implementing the new citywide system. And so we're hoping that it will be a project that will be completed by July 1st, 2021.
Great. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. So I'll get a mover for that, please. Councillor Spillis, seconder. Councillor Bailey. Councillor Goyda, sorry. Councillor Goyda, raise your hand first. All right, all in favor? Councillor Bailey.
Yep. In favor.
Councillor Bomer.
Favor?
Okay, Councillor Goyda.
In favor.
Councillor Spillis.
In favor?
And I'm in favor, that's carried. Okay, the next one is the development charges. And we have a resolution for that one. Maybe Ms. Hoyfox could read that resolution, please.
That report FIN 2020-022 regarding the 2019 development charges be received, and that council accepts the treasurer's declaration that the township is in compliance with section 59.1 -1 of the Development Charges Act 1997.
Okay, can I get a mover for that, please?
Sure, I'll move it.
Anybody? Councillor Spillis, seconder. Councillor Bailey. All right, questions. Councillor Bailey. Anything?
No questions right now.
Okay, Councillor Ballmer.
No questions, but nice Tweety bird, somebody.
Yeah. It's Councillor Bailey. She's outside. And Councillor Goida.
No questions.
Councillor Spillis.
No questions, I'm good.
Yeah, me too. Okay, all in favor. Councillor Bailey.
In favor.
Councillor Ballmer.
In favor.
Councillor Goida.
In favor.
And Councillor Spillis.
In favor?
I'm in favor as well. That's carried. Then we have the administrative department, source protection. So we're going to have to, hold on 1 second. Yeah, source protection. So we're going to bring Kyle into the meeting, I believe, Ms. Hoyfox. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm just going to move Kyle Davis over just right now. Just 1 sec.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi, Kyle. How are you?
Good, thank you, Mayor Seeley. I'm very well. I'll, do you wish me to present, to start the presentation?
Yeah. Did Ms. Hoyfox go over with you the split screen, or is it just a verbal presentation?
I can certainly share the report, yep. 1 second, please.
We have, yeah. I'll leave it up to you.
I will share the report, there you go. So it should be visible now.
There we go. Oh, same one we have in our package, but that's fine. Yep, the
It
floor is yours.
is the same package, yep. So.
Yep, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Seeley, members of the council. I'm pleased to be here today virtually to present to you the Source Protection Annual Report for 2019 for the Township of Puslinch. As you recall, Township of Puslinch is subject to 2 source protection plans, the Grand River Plan and the Halton-Hamilton Plan. And although the township does not own its own municipal drinking water systems, it is responsible for the protection of its neighbors. So in this case, it would be the City of Guelph, the Region of Waterloo, and a small portion of the City of Hamilton system from Freeholton. So there are 2 reports that are required to be submitted by February 1st of every year by staff, and these were submitted on behalf of the township by the statutory deadline. And the report in front of you provides some highlights on those reports and on our continued implementation. So as in other years, we continue to implement source water in the county under Wellington Source Water Protection Partnership, and the website's there for your reference. There are various aspects of our work. One aspect is development reviews. So we did review a total of 53 development applications, both notices and comments, in the township in 2019. And if you are interested to compare to the rest of the county, there's a table at the end of the report that provides the breakdown throughout the county and the total numbers for this year. For your reference, there's 244 development applications for the countywide. So these numbers in Puslinch are consistent with last year at least, and appear to be in so far with 2020, barring a little bit of a dip due to the initial parts of the pandemic. The numbers in 2020 are tracking as well. So this appears to be about what the workload will look like from a development review perspective, at least at this time, for the township. Other aspects of the work include the verification or the analysis of activities on the landscape that are identified as significant drinking water threats in the approved assessment reports. It's a variety of work that's required to do this. It involves desktop work, field work, air photos, interpretation, talking with the landowners and the property owners, and going out on site. So we can report that in the township at this point, there's 42% of the activities. It's that calculates to 82 activities remaining that are that still remain to be verified. The majority of those are agricultural properties, and the reason for that, that there's 41 of 82 still remaining, is that the agricultural county-wide has been initially focusing on 100 meters of the municipal well, or where there's timelines established. And the Grand River Source Protection Plan, which is the portion of the, which is a plan that applies to the Township of Puslinch, doesn't establish risk management plans in Puslinch. Therefore, much of the agricultural outreach and threat verification was not part of the initial focus. However, is part of the work that we're turning our attention to now over the next few years. The additional number of threats that are still remaining were actually road salt or snow storage threats, and those were put on hold because if you recall, there was some changes proposed, and I'll talk about that in a second, on the chloride and sodium issues contributing areas coming from Cambridge. So that initial properties that were identified were put on hold until some of the work that the Region of Waterloo was doing, the GRCA was doing, was complete in terms of whether or not there'd be a larger area that could be affected within the township. So in terms of countywide and supporting this work, there's 1 inspection in the township, but there's 75 inspections overall in the county, and that again kind of reflects where we're at the stage of work that we're at with the township in terms of threat verification. Education outreach is a large part, and there's a comprehensive summary in your report there. It's a large part of what we do. We did update the communications plan in 2019, and focusing on 6 strategic areas going forward. And this is targeted communications to those living in vulnerable areas, increased general public awareness, including social media, promotion of the Tier 3 water budget results and requirements, septic inspection program outreach, road salt, and a focus on school-age children. And this really does build on some of the education work that we've already been doing, including last year, which includes the one-on-one outreach with property owners, as well as the broader outreach either through public meetings or something like the Waterloo Wellington Children's Groundwater Festival. And then in terms of what's taken a fair bit of time as it relates to Township of Puslinch in 2019, there was a number of updates to the source protection plans that were undertaken. 2 of them affected the Township of Puslinch. One was the initial mapping updates in the early part of 2019, and this relates to largely to the regional Waterloo changes as it relates to City of Cambridge. So I do have an update on that that just came in yesterday after the date of this report. Is that those mapping changes will take effect as of October 1st. There is some other changes that may take effect a little bit earlier than that, but the information we've received from the GRCA at this point is that the mapping changes in the western portion of Puslinch related to the Cambridge wells will take effect October 1st. And that does mean that there is an expanded area for that does have that is affected by the chloride issues contributing area. And the second part of the updates is the policy updates that will be in part that will help regulate some of the activities within that expanded area in the Township of Puslinch as well as other parts of the county. That update is going to has gone to the GRCA board and the Source Protection Committee in the last month and will be submitted to the province for approval later this month. And then lastly, Tier 3 water quantity technical studies, to provide council with an update on those. They did continue in 2019, especially in the first half of 2019. There was a fair number of meetings and reports and review of different policy options that were traded back and forth between our team, which is ourselves, the townships and county staff, the City of Guelph team, the GRCA, and some of the other surrounding municipalities, Halton, Waterloo, and the province. However, in around August of last year, the work did get put on pause, did get paused, and that was in large part to some just ongoing discussions that were occurring between the City of Guelph and the province, and those discussions at this point are still ongoing. We've had some updates since then, but those discussions are still ongoing, and they're really regarding the trying to come to a common understanding between the parties on the scope of the policy, specifically the permit to take water policies, and what the province is able to do under their existing legislation, the Ontario Water Resources Act. And there's a few other points in this report that just really recap previous year's work. That includes the septic inspection program. The septic inspection program I will touch on briefly It was completed in 2015 to 2017. However, it is due every 5 years, so we are coming up. 2020 would be the start. We have had some discussions with building departments about that. However, we've not had discussions with them since the pandemic have started. So right now, the start of that program is on hold given the current situation. And I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Okay, thank you, Kyle, for that presentation. Councillors Bailey.
Thanks, Kyle, for your report. Yeah, thank you very much for all that information. As a newbie, there's a lot in there that new for me to read over. You just
Sarah,
touched
you're gonna,
on.
oh, there you go. You're going to speak a little closer to your mic, please.
Okay. You just touched on one thing there that I was curious about. You mentioned doing outreach programs to school-age kids. Are you doing anything in the schools?
Did you hear that, Kyle?
I'm sorry, no way. I
Sorry.
didn't quite catch all of that.
I just noticed you were doing outreach to school-age kids, and I wondered if you were in the schools doing anything.
Oh, in the schools, through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe the question was about whether or not we are going into the schools. At this point, we're not. Predominantly, our focus on school-age children is through the Waterloo Wellington Children's Groundwater Festival, and that's a financial and staff partnership, and it's a great festival. Unfortunately, it was canceled this year due to COVID. It usually would have just wrapped up last week. However, yes, in the communications plan, we did identify kind of wanting to kind of expand that school-age children focus beyond the festival and maybe start to look at school-age, look at programs in the county schools. And we did have a position approved through the county to kind of assist in broadly in communications as well as other items, a source protection coordinator. That position is on hold for hiring right now as well, since it was a new hire, and obviously we hadn't hired that position prior to the COVID pandemic. Did I answer the question?
She's
Okay,
nodding.
I'm not. Okay,
She says,
excellent.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Councillor Balmer. There you go. There he is.
No questions. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Councillor Goyda.
Thank you, Kyle. I have no questions either.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Spillis.
I'm good. Thank you, Kyle.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kyle. Great report. Glad you do the work you do. It's excellent.
Okay, thank you
All
very
right.
much.
You're welcome. Ms. White Fox, did you read the resolution already? I've lost track slightly.
No, I can read it now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
That report ADM 2020-016 regarding source protection annual reports for 2019 be received for information.
I get a mover for that. Councillor Balmer, you want to move that one?
So moved.
Seconded by Councillor Bailey. All in favor? Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, in favor.
Okay, Councillor Balmer.
In favor.
Councillor Goyda.
In favor.
Councillor Spillis. Oh, we didn't hear you.
In favor?
And I'm in favor. That carries. Thank you. Planning, none. Roads and Parks Department, none. Mayor's update, recreation. Okay. I received an email. I went fishing. You guys remember us? Glenn and I were supposed to have that the meeting with the MTO. It kept getting pushed back because of the COVID-19. And the last date, if memory serves me right, was May 30th, around there somewhere, or 29th. Anyway, so they canceled it, and I went fishing. I asked them, what was the meeting about, and then they responded it was about the propositions that I made, or we made, sorry, at Roma to look at other placements for the truck inspection station. But as we all know now, the minister put that project on hold, so that there really isn't a sense to have the meeting on it. However, we're still waiting on the government's release of their expansion plans, which we are all hoping will be inclusive of the Highway 6 bypass. I know it's pretty optimistic, but you got to live life as an optimist. And yeah, so we'll keep working. Rory from Maple Leaf Foods reached out to the coalition, got those new signatures that everybody saw, and it was submitted to the Ministry of Transport. Our MPP Ted Arnott saw it. He requested Minister Mulroney to respond directly to Ms. Rory Malkapine, and that we be CC'd on that, on her response to his letter. So I look forward to seeing what they have to say. It's great to have the business community still behind this project. Hopefully that can get a little more wind in its sails to get it completed. Other than that, I don't really have much. I mean, the county's still working away. There's the green bins are being delivered. It looks like we're scheduled to get our green bins last in the delivery, but they are on their way. I hope that you're spreading the word to use them. Make sure you tell your friends and family to check the green bin. On the inside is the kitchen catcher, so it doesn't end up in the at All Treat in Arthur for compost. But really excited for that program to be started soon. I think July, I believe it's on 9/4. So that's all I have, unless you have some questions for me. None.
If I could, Mr. Chair,
Sure.
if I could pass along my thanks for opening up the WTFs again. I had the opportunity to take advantage of the reopenings, and everything went smoothly, and so it's great. And I've heard from a couple of residents who are thrilled to get back in and be recognized by the friendly county staff at the gate.
Yeah, it's been great. I haven't heard any negative components of the transfer station being open. Generally, people don't call you when they're happy, so it's been pretty smooth sailing. I personally haven't attended. How was the lineup, Councillor Balmer? Was it pretty busy, or?
There was one other car when we were there, but others I've spoken to, they've really done a good job. They've made it 2 lanes going in now, so you can stage the cars 2 lanes wide going in instead of lining out all the way to the road. So people who were there when there was a lineup even said it didn't take that long. They don't have the reuse center open, so that does diminish the purpose of going there, but also the textile box is closed. But otherwise, when we were there were lots of people bringing in brush. I guess they've been holding on to for quite a while. So I think there's certainly a good demand to have them open again. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Okay, anything else?
Yeah,
Councillor Schools?
I can echo Councillor Bulmer's comments. We went to the transfer station on 3 occasions, and it wasn't any difficulty accessing at all.
Excellent. On today's mayor's call, the warden was asking for some feedback on the county services being provided and what we had heard, and so I'll be sure to pass these along to himself and to staff. Anything else? Okay. Any notices of motion? No. Okay. No committee minutes because we're not having any committees. Municipal announcements. Anyone?
I do.
Councillor Goyda?
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back on the shop small business idea that I had brought up at our last council meeting. So since then, I've spent some time speaking with Centre Wellington and the county, and I have learned quite a great deal of this gift certificate program that they have in place both in Centre Wellington and in Minto. And it is something that I think, in speaking with some of the businesses here in Puss Lynch, that our local businesses could benefit from. But there is some cost associated with it, and there is some, I guess, back-end work associated with it. And in speaking with Centre Wellington, they put me in touch with this company that they use out of Harrison. It's called Awesome, OSIM, Awesome. And they helped them put this program in place and did a lot of the back-end work. So in speaking with our CAO, I asked him, what we could do and what our capacity is in implementing something like this. And I was wondering if council would be open to having this same company that put this program in place in Centre Wellington and in Minto, this Awesome, if you would be open to having them speak at our next council meeting as to what they did and how it worked. and what it would cost, to see if this is something you would support putting in place here in Puslinch.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Gordon. I'd be in support of having them come as a delegation before council so we can get a little more background information, and definitely need to know the costing. Councillor Bailey.
Yep, I'm definitely in favor of hearing what.
Okay.
Sorry, this is not working.
We can hear you better.
There we go. Yeah, definitely in favor of hearing what that organization would have to share with us. Just curious, as of now, Councillor Porter, do you have any idea of how many businesses in Puslinch would be
I'm sorry,
interested in?
Yeah, you're very difficult to hear, Sarah, unfortunately.
Just wondering if you know how many Puslinch businesses would be interested as of this point.
So
I think Councillor Bailey, I don't know that I'm hearing everything you said, but I think what you're asking is if I know how many Puslinch businesses would be interested. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know an exact figure. I have reached out to several of them. I have heard from, I have heard specifically from, I would say 5, that they would for sure benefit from this program. I have sent a bunch of feelers out. I haven't heard back from some. I'm assuming it's because some of them are closed and aren't monitoring things closely, but it does seem to be fairly well received by anyone I speak to about it. I know that there are a couple of businesses specifically through the Aberfoyle area who have been hit double whammy by both the COVID pandemic as well as the road construction, that have said, you know, this would be something that would really help them, not only just with potentially getting some gift card sales, but also just as another means of exposure for them. So from what I'm seeing, that the potential cost of this isn't hugely significant. It's more the time involved that I am not fully understanding yet. But the way I kind of see it is, even if we can save one business from having to close, it's worthwhile doing if the cost isn't prohibitive.
That's great. So maybe getting us to help promote it would be good too, just when we're talking to people.
I heard getting us to help promote it, and then it cut out. Sorry.
That would be helpful.
In terms of promotion, that would be something that I'm hoping that this awesome company can help. But I have also been in touch with the Puslinch Pioneer, who have said that they would help us promote it. And I'm hoping that if everything goes through, that perhaps our mayor can help through his Facebook page and other sort of avenues to promote it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Balmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councillor Goyda. Always interested in learning from those who have already blazed the trail. No need to reinvent the wheel. If someone out there has a solution that we could look at and learn from, and compare the costs and the benefits, I'm all for it. So I'd love to learn more.
Okay.
Councillor Spluss.
Yes, I'd like to suggest that our CEO liaise with the CEOs of the other 2 townships to understand what's involved from their point of view. Obviously, the web page is one thing, but I don't know how much staff time required at the other end. So that would be of interest to me. So if we can get that together with the presentation, be appreciated.
Mr. CEO, you got that?
Absolutely, I can get in touch with them for sure and get their perspective on that. That's a good point.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what this program's about, and we'll look forward to seeing it next council meeting. Okay,
Okay.
I don't think we need a resolution. You'll organize that, Councillor Goida, or
Yeah.
through the CAO? Okay,
We'll do our best. I don't know if they'll be able to prepare a proposal and get it presented in that time frame, but we'll get them to council at the earliest opportunity.
Okay.
sure. Any other municipal announcements? Councillor Spillis?
Yes, I'm sure most of you heard by now of the internet company IASL, or Standard Broadband, that they have plans to expand into our township, which is great news. We don't know the schedule yet. I understand they still haven't done all the legwork to prepare the necessary drawings for approval by our township and as well as the county. But we're optimistic. In fact, our committee chair, Glenn James, and I had spoken to the mayor. We have a quote from him as well. And Glenn is trying to get Glenn James is trying to get information from the principal of Standard Broadband, get some quotes from him and publicize it as well in local papers. And furthermore, this morning on News 570, Blair Mock, one of our committee members, was on News 570, basically talking about the service needs we have in Puss Lynch and the divide between the rural and the urban folks with respect to service. So that's basically in a nutshell. And the only thing I was wondering, Mr. Mayor, if I could ask about ticks. There seems to be a exposure in local media about ticks. I was wondering if there's anything being done to advise our residents of what to do, type of thing, or direct them to appropriate site at the Wellington Health Board.
Health Department?
Yes.
I personally haven't taken the initiative for the ticks. I mean, as an outdoorsman, ticks have been around for years. They're just a component of it. When I'm cutting firewood with my kids the last 3 years, I've been bit probably 4 or 5 times at least. You know, it's not a great feeling when you come home, you got to pull them out. I don't know if there's an
I can speak to that
education.
briefly if you like.
Sure, Councillor Bowman, go ahead.
Thank you. We recently contacted the health unit in Guelph regarding ticks as part of our employment safety plans here on the farm. We always like to update what the process is, and as they advise us, they're not taking ticks this year. What they advise people to do is take a picture of it, as high a resolution of a picture of it as you can if you have one, and send that to them, and then they can identify it if it's a black-legged tick or a dog tick, and then they'll go from there. But they're not at this point, I guess maybe due to the pandemic, they're not taking ticks. That was as of last week. So we're checking periodically with them because we're working in the bushes as well, just as the mayor is.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I can add at the staff level is I've heard a few of the reports as well in the media. So what I'm in the process of doing is compiling a message that's going to be sent to the local health unit to ask them what a point of contact could be and where we could direct people who do have inquiries, or where a good source of information be, just so that we can provide that through our website or whatever to individuals. But I'm just about to have that ready to send off to the health unit.
That's great, Mr. Schwindiger.
Okay, excellent. Okay, any other municipal announcements? No. Okay, any unfinished business? No. Bylaws, I see none, so I need a resolution to go into closed.
That council shall go into closed session under section 239 of the Municipal Act for the purpose of A, confidential verbal report from Glenn Schwendinger, CAO clerk, regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose with respect to revising various township bylaws, and B, adoption and receipt of minutes of the previous closed meetings, March 4th, 2020 closed meeting, and May 20th, 2020 closed meeting.
All right, can I get a mover for that?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Spillis. Okay, moved by Councillor Ballmer, second by Councillor Spillis. All in favor, Councillor Bailey,
All right, in favor?
Yeah, Counselor, Jessica's got me laughing. Counselor Bulmer.
In favor?
Okay, Counselor Goida,
In favor.
Counselor Spillis,
In favor?
and I'm in favor. For anybody that was joining us virtually, we appreciate you joining us for our meetings and enjoy the rest of your day.
The council moves
Recording?
into open session.
Can I get a mover for that, please? I'll take Counselor Bailey, seconder, Counselor Goida. All in favor, Counselor Bailey.
In favor?
All right, Counselor Bulmer,
In favor?
Counselor Goida,
In favor.
Counselor Spillis.
In favor?
I'm in favor. That's carried. And, okay, you want to do? You might as well just keep going, Ms. Whitefox.
Okay, that council receives the confidential verbal report from Glenn Schwendinger, CAO clerk, regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose with respect to the revising various township bylaws, and that staff be directed to proceed with the preparation of a new site alteration bylaw with Aaron Verlis and a new parking bylaw with SB Law, and that the minutes of the following closed meetings be adopted and written as distributed: March 4th, 2020, closed meeting, and May 20th, 2020, closed meeting.
Okay, can I get a mover for that, please?
Sure, I'll move it.
Counselor Sapoulos, can I get a seconder? Didn't see anybody yet. Somebody wave.
Second?
Counselor Bailey? Yeah, Counselor Bailey. All in favor, Counselor Bailey?
In favor?
Counselor Bulmer?
In favor?
Counselor Goida?
In favor.
Counselor Spillis?
In favor?
And I'm in favor. That's carried. You read the next resolution, Ms. Whitefox?
That the following bylaw be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 2020-030 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for the corporation of the Township of Whistler at its meeting held on the 3rd day of June 2020.
Thank you. Mover, please. Counselor Goida? Yeah. Counselor, now I need a seconder, please. Come on, Counselor
I'll
Bulmer, put your
move.
hand
I'll
up.
second.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Counselor Bulmer's going to second that. Okay, all in favor, Counselor Bailey?
In favor?
Counselor Bulmer?
In favor?
Counselor Goida?
In favor.
Counselor Spillis?
In favor?
And I'm in favor. It's carried. And our adjournment, please, Ms. Whitefox.
That council hereby adjourns at 3:14 p.m.
You gonna move her for that? Counselor
Mhm.
Bailey? Seconder, Counselor Spillis. All in favor, Counselor Bailey?
In favor?
Counselor Bulmer? My screen's moving around. Counselor Goida?
In favor.
Counselor Spillis?
In favor?
I'm in favor as well. Carried. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
You have a good afternoon.